What's going on, guys? My name's Tyler. I got Tony in the chair today. He's going to be our haircut model, and we're going to be doing some maintenance on his curly mullet. We just went through our consultation, and essentially Tony wants to keep the general shape of the cut. Some of the areas we're looking to kind of tackle. One, we're going to trim just some dead ends, and we're getting a little too much weight back in this area because this section from previous is traveling all the way back for all of this here to be square. And because that's traveling so far back, we're just getting a lot of length in that area. Either we're gonna not pull everything back square in this area of the head where stuff starts to round more, we will come off of the base of the head a little bit more. That way we'll get a little shorter here, or we'll move this section up a little bit to be part of the front so you have this flatter side here. Some of the things I am considering for Tony's hair is density, especially with the fade. I gotta make sure I'm not going very deep into it, otherwise it's gonna jump on me. Also up top with curls, he really wants to keep the curls, so I have to take a look at the curl pattern. So we're gonna wet Tony's hair down, get into the sectioning for the mullet, and I'll meet you guys back there. Okay, so now that we got the hair wet down, you're just gonna groom everything back. And at this point is when you can kind of get a better idea of your client's head shape. The main thing we were experiencing was a lot of this length here. And it makes sense if you look at the head shape, especially for something that's being cut square to the back, because Tony said it's flat here and then rounds a lot here. So if this hair is traveling all the way back here, you might have 2 inches of extra length. So as far as the sectioning pattern for a mullet, start with this center profile section on the top of the head. Sorry, not center profile, I'm actually just splitting it. And I'll move the hair to either side. This allows me to see where the head starts to round and see where the kind of dominant growth pattern is. Even though Tony's head starts to round here, the growth pattern's a little more back here. We'll go down here, bring everything back, considering again what we were saying earlier of like, all right, this hair is probably traveling a little too far back. Because if we look here, that was actually on the flat section of the head. We're just gonna put a little more into the front like we were saying earlier, and probably do a combination where we're not coming all the way back square, but more off the base of the head for this outer area. Just gonna determine how much I kind of want to take off on the back. Again, we're really just doing a little dusting and trim. He likes most of the length. So I'm just gonna take a very small bit off there. Okay, so now we have our sectioning pattern. We have the back, the 2 side panels at the top. This is key because on a mullet, we're gonna be longest in the back, shorter on the side panels, going from short to long. We wanna be able to work off of those areas because then that hair can nicely live where it's supposed to live. Take the center section, use the wide tooth of the comb, and just follow that down, and then you'll pull away with the comb. That's the first half of your section, and then take the second half, keeping it about roughly a finger to a finger and a half width. So same thing, pull away, groom to the side. So I'm pulling this square off the base of the head, and you can see the top length isn't really reaching completely to the end. So I'm just gonna dust off these ends right here to get a more square shape, and that'll be my guide moving through the rest of the back panel. So you just use the comb to move off the base of the head and follow that guide down. And with curly hair, it can be a little tough because it wants to snap back and kind of out of your hand. So at any point, just add a little bit more water to combat that. There's my first guide. I'm gonna take a portion of that into the next, and that'll be our traveling guide for the rest. I got my guide from previous, you can see it back here, and then the overlap here from the next section. Just gonna trim that off. Did you try?
Then do this like how you're doing.
I'm starting to take a little bit bigger sections just because it's not as dense. If it was crazy thick, then you definitely want to stick to smaller sections. I'm gonna come a little bit more off the base of the head, but not completely. So come in here, all off, and then over direct slightly to the back. And during this process, just constantly trying to return to the consultation and remember the pain points, but also the request. So if a certain area is too heavy, but at the same time he's liking the overall shape and length, and we have to be careful that we don't kind of dig in to that too much with the decisions we're making. To keep the same kind of like consistent over direction, if you don't have the head as a reference, then you can choose a point in the room. So this would be off the base of the head if I was flat with the comb. If I take it here and then over direct slightly. Take off that last bit. That half is done. Still flicking around the ear good. Alright, so now I'm using that guideline we made, first one on the cut. And I'm staying pretty square here again because we talked about it being flat off the head. And I'll just follow that guideline down. We're kind of at that place where the head starts to round. So that's what we're doing on the other side. We're coming off base, then shifting just a little bit. Follow that guide down. And just staying as consistent as possible. Alright, so now we got this back panel all layered up. You can see we got good movement in there. And I just pull out like strands from the general area to check that we're in a good spot with length. And it looks like everything is matching up. So that's good, that's what we like to see. Okay, so we got the side panel dropped down. One thing we see here is a lot of this extra length, and again, that's because I moved the position of that section over, try and combat that heaviness. This section, I'm just gonna do some graduation. So I'm just taking off a small bit here, and take off about 1/4 of an inch. Take another section, come back to previous, and I am going to over direct this a little bit down, just to increase in length slightly as we get to the back. And I'm still using the head shape as a basis, feeling my comb on it, and then coming out from there. And this is where you're gonna see more length come off because we switched the pattern of the sectioning, and this is hair that was previously traveling to the back or used as kind of that connection point where we talked about razor cutting or slide cutting, creating some internal length differences. You should have 1 or 2 more here, and I'm changing the angle a little bit because I don't want to dig in too much down here. And this is where you kind of have to work visually to see like, okay, what's going to travel to the back, what might hug around the ear, like what do I want to keep and what do I want to remove to contribute to the haircut. I'm comfortable removing that large length that I just did because when I was seeing it before, you know, you still see this traveling down. We still know that that's enough to kind of make up that mullety back panel portion. And I'm pretty pleased with how that's looking right now. This is an area where I might pull down and just take some length out of that internal shape so it looks visually connected. And then we're going to repeat that process on the other side. Just checking the length from one side to the other. We had about 4 on the other side. So I'll pull out some length here. 1, 2, 3, 4. About 5. So taking off about that much to match the other side. We'll take off that length. And again, when you get to this point, you want to be cognizant of what hair is living where. If I take it off, is it going to sacrifice from the overall style? And then I'll start to change the direction of my section for that same reason. Again, based on the initial consultation, wanting to move more weight through here was the complaint of the heaviness. And similar to how we did on the other side, pulling some of this weight forward and just removing a little bit of internal weight. Okay, again, we'll just check sides to see if we're in the same general direction with the lengths. And we are, so that's good. And I like that I'm still seeing kind of these flicks here that'll come full for that mullet. We're gonna wet the top down. We're gonna use the length in the back as a reference to connect this through. Okay, so I got my reference from the back. You can see that guy dropping out there, and I'm just trimming about 1/4 of an inch off. Again, this is just maintenance for the top. He likes the shape, so that's right where we should be. And again, you can use your comb here as your guide to make sure you're cutting square off the base of the head, and then I'll use that to move over to the side. And I'll just work this forward until we get to the front, and then pivot sides.
education or anything.
Scrolling. No, like YouTube, unless it's like for educational or learning purposes.
Really?
When I'm cooking, I don't listen to music or podcasts or anything. Just kind of
Focus on that one.
Okay, so all scissor work is done. I'm gonna put a little sea salt spray in Tony's here, and then we're gonna diffuse it. I like to just give a liberal kind of spritz, and then take my hand and just work everything through. And then we're gonna use a diffuser, low to medium speed and medium heat, because this thing gets really hot.
I thought I wanted it shorter, but I need that length to keep the curls in the.
Now that we have the hair diffused, you can kind of see the shape that we're creating. So you got your square on top. I'll pull this stuff out. Square on back. But if you were looking from the top, you start to round a little bit towards these corners. So all the weight isn't sitting in here completely, it's a little bit reduced. Now we're gonna do the taper, and I'm looking at this taper just sit around this area. I wanna maintain the darkness here, because again, if I go too high on Tony's hair, it's just gonna jump and be super light. I'm gonna try and keep it around this area and dig into the beard a little bit more. I'm gonna place my initial guideline in around here, right around mid-ear. And because I'm gonna get pretty deep with that beard fade, I'm just gonna take this area away. I'm gonna put in my next guideline with my wand. I don't wanna go straight to like clipper open here again, because I just wanna see how the hair reacts. I'll go about an inch up. And you can see even with the wand that, you know, that looks more like no guard. Now I'm gonna go in with the 1.5, I'm gonna close it up. And I want the hair to live kinda in the direction that it's gonna be. I'm gonna go with my 0.5. Flick into that. I'm going in with the 2 and just flicking out with the corner into that bulk. Being careful not to take too much away. On the beard, I'm gonna go open. Close it halfway and pick. I'm gonna go 1 open, close it halfway and pick. And this is the area we want to be careful in. We just need to be sure we're keeping the squareness on the cheek. If I were to dig in like this, I might end up rounding it and you won't have that smooth transition into length, since we are keeping it relatively square. But just using the corner around the ear. And I'm just following that back behind the ear using the corner. And at this point I usually start to kind of scrape back in. I'm just looking for a clean visual transition into the mullet in the back. Just create a straight edge down. Taking a little bit off. So I just want to see the front profile. Comb everything out, and I generally use a clipper for this portion. And I'll just choose a center point to take that length off, and then I'm gonna follow out from there and then hit the sides to make it square. So we'll just follow that center guideline back under the chin, and then like I said, that becomes our guideline for the rest of that. So I'm following that out to there. And I'm just going a little bit at a time. I don't want to chunk it and then end up not having enough hair to work with for a good square shape. I'm just going to continue to comb out as I'm working through it. And you end up having a shape kind of like this. So we can take length off the center and also get cleaner, more shapely under the jaw. On the sides of the beard. So that's what I want to take off from this profile to make it more square. and shaper. So I'll try and follow the jaw to the best of my ability and just glide off of the beard and get those flyaways. Come straight off the jaw. For the mustache, I'm just gonna go with the grain and knock that down. And then I'll usually take some more off with my trimmer. I just like to be cautious around this area because I don't want to make a gap in between the transition. Angle that out. And I'll start at the center of the lip. Use that as a baseline to follow towards the edge. Now that we're underneath, you can again kind of check the shape from each side to see if it's even. This side is peeking up a little bit, so I'm just going to match this side. And as I'm doing that, I'm going to follow it down and just start making my line underneath the beard. For the lineup, I'm just stretching the skin slightly. The hot towel makes it a lot more pliable. I'm just gonna check the point at which the beard is sitting on the other side. It's around this area. So you can start here to kind of guide you into that C-cup. And just gently stretching the skin. Last but not least, we're going to apply a little bit of product just to bring some of the curls out, firm everything up. Rubbing it through my hands, and I'm really just going to scrunch here to accentuate the shape we already got going on. So to recap, we got a little less weight through there, a lot less weight actually, so he should feel less of that poking out. The main thing we were trying to solve is just the panel was a little bit more on the square of the head, leading to more of that bulkiness. Now it's more towards the back. We're able to maintain that length through there and have that nice tight transition into it. We got the faded beard, squared off here. And yeah, curls are popping out, sharp lineup. We're looking good.
I feel sexy.
You want to do your look into the camera?
It doesn't lie.
That's all for today, guys. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see any more educational videos, be sure to subscribe to our page. We'll have different barbers coming in here and doing educational videos. If you guys don't know us yet, we are Slckr. We create workwear for barbers. Things like this, the work shirt and the utility pant. All hair-proof, bleach-proof, water-resistant, things you can wear in and out of the shop that'll not only look good, but also withstand your day-to-day needs in the shop. So we're a barber-run company, built for barbers, by barbers. You can visit our store by visiting the links below. We'll link all products in the description, or head to our channel and check them out there. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.